Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breathe Motivation. My name's Anthony Hester. I'm the host and founder of Breathe Motivation. So glad to join you this week. So thankful for you guys to join us. To all you guys that are been with us since episode 1, thank you. Any of you guys that are new to this, I appreciate you joining, and I hope you guys subscribe with us. So let's recap last week. So last week we talked about define your thoughts. A lot of times we are so afraid of being, kind of just capped, right? We have these small kind of thought process of who we are, what we want to be, and we get scared and kind of put in this box. And we've got to be able to defy that way of thinking. We've got to be able to process that we can be bigger and better than we really think we are. So I think that's important for us to really understand that you can accomplish whatever you want to, but you've got to be able to stand up to yourself or stand up to other people that want to limit you. And that's what I mean by defying your thoughts. You've got to be able to take action and be in full force and really take charge of what you want out of life. So I think that is a great thing. So that got me thinking, right? So, a big piece of success is big picture thinking, right? So a lot of people, tend to be very fearful of like these big thoughts or your dreams or your goals because sometimes you think that they're too big or, it's not going to be accomplished because other people are going to tell you, oh, hey, it's not possible, right? So you hear all of these things or you tell yourself that these things aren't possible. But I think it's important for us to understand that big picture thinking is very important. And I'll start off with the definition for today, and that's big. So that's of considerable size, extent, or intensity. So I was thinking about myself and I was thinking about the processes and what I go in life and how I work through things. And, I look back and I think, man, there have been things that I've like, man, I was so successful at these things. And how did I accomplish that? And what I was able to do was have big picture thinking and not even knowing it at the time. So when I look back at, my football career, I wasn't the best. And I say career like I was in the NFL or anything, but I wasn't in the NFL. I only went through high school, but at the end of the day, we won a state championship. But I was a player that was not like the most talented. I wasn't the fastest. I was athletic, but I wasn't the fastest. I had people that were way faster than me, people that probably were a lot better than me, but I worked harder than anybody else. One of my biggest things that I did was, at the end of my junior season, I really thought about quitting. And it was because I wasn't getting any playing time. I sat behind two of the, fastest, human beings in our high school or in our state, right? They were 100-meter champion and second place in 100 meters, right? So these guys were fast. There was no way that I was going to be able to be faster than them. So, and I also, on defense, I'd never played defense. And I always played special teams. So I played all the special teams. That was the extent of my playing time. And I said, you know what? I want to play. So my defensive coordinator came up to me at the end of the season and said, hey, you are very talented. We need to find a spot for you. And so he's like, I'm thinking about putting you at defensive end. Now, defensive end is, when you see those on TV and in the NFL, these guys are huge, right? So I was an undersized defensive end. But, at the end of the season, I decided, hey, how am I going to accomplish this and how am I going to be the best I can be? How can I get on the field and be a starter and contribute? Right? I was able to contribute by yelling on the sidelines and, doing the best I could in scout team and practice and everything there. But I was like, how am I going to get better? And how am I going to be able to accomplish my goals? So my thought process was, and not knowing it then, but more now so than ever, I took it upon myself to say, hey, you know what? I've got to work harder than anybody else. So after school, I would go and I'd run this mountain that was behind our high school. And then I would come back, I'd lift weights, and then I would catch, snaps. So I'd catch footballs from our long snappers because I didn't have very good hands. I actually was known for, as bricks because I wasn't able to catch the ball. So I worked hard to really accomplish those things because I needed to set myself apart to be able to get on the field. So I worked hard all summer. I worked out with the linemen because I was like, these are the guys I'm going to be going up against. They pushed me hard and I gained some weight. I gained like 30 pounds over the summer, lifting weights with the linemen, working out with the linemen. I was running the mountain. I was doing all these things. So it was great. And in that process, I almost, as I got into the season, I didn't start the first game. And I was a little bit disappointed, but, we had a transfer. He was fast. And, the coach was like, hey, we're going to put him in. The head coach was like, hey, we're going to put him in instead. And I was like, okay, cool. But I ended up getting in the game, was successful, and never looked back, right? I started the rest of the game. We ended up winning the state championship, and I felt like I had a big, big deal in winning that because I was able to block a punt at the end of the game. We were able to score all this good stuff, right? So in that process, looking back at it, it took me some big picture thinking to get ahead of where I was at, right? And to understand what I needed to accomplish to be successful. And I didn't think I was going to be anywhere close to the success that I did have, that senior year. I believed in myself, and I wasn't as confident as I was. I wasn't the most confident guy, but I was like, you know what? If I work hard, great things are going to happen. So I pushed myself all throughout the summer, all throughout the junior year, in through the summer to senior year, and I still continued to bust my butt. So thinking about it, I sat down and I was like, I had to create this plan. I had to create this plan on how to get bigger. And how do I get better? And how do I get faster? And how do I get stronger? And the only way to do that was to work. So as I went through this, it was crazy. I don't know if you guys are big on visuals, but, leading up to my state championship game, I was on the bus and I just had my eyes closed. I was listening to music, and it's almost like the game played in my head. And, I don't know if you've ever heard of being in the zone, but really just being in the zone, I think that's, like things just happen because you're just in it. You're in it to win it. And I just visualized almost the whole game in my mind, and things just happened. Great things happened. The game worked out the way it did. And it was amazing because I had such a great game. It was the best game I'd ever had. But that all came from this thought process, this belief. But I had this belief because I had this big picture thinking at the end of my junior year, right? I decided that I was going to be a problem solver. I decided that I wasn't going to quit. I remember having a conversation with my dad and saying, hey, I'm thinking about quitting. And, he's like, do you really want to do that? And we had a great conversation. And I think that led me to this big picture thinking. I would take time to really think about the processes of what I needed to do and how I was going to be successful. And I think a lot of us go through that without even realizing it. But in order for us to really dream big and accomplish these goals, there are things that we got to do in order to really get to that level. And first, you've got to believe in yourself. Right? You've got to have this big belief within yourself that no matter what comes your way, you're going to be able to accomplish these goals. Now, these goals can be outlandish goals that other people don't believe in, but you could believe in them. And if you have this belief in them and you go after it, you can accomplish it. Right? I look at people like, Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan was in my opinion, the greatest basketball player to ever play, right? Won 6 championships. And, I look at him, and this guy didn't even make his his team for basketball in high school, right? But he went on to be the best basketball player ever, right? But there was a big picture thinking. He trained hard, he worked hard, he became this person and had this big dream of being the best basketball player ever, right? And that's the most amazing thing is that anybody can have these dreams, right? You look at Steve Jobs, he started out in a garage and he created this huge company of Apple, right? We're using their smartphones, we're using their laptops. There's so many great things that came out of this, but this was from, somebody that, really had no idea of what he wanted to do in life, but decided, hey, I think it's very important for me to lead some big thing, right? And I look at Martin Luther King Jr., right? He led a charge of, this greatness of, the belief that, African Americans should be able to live the life of anybody, right? I think that's a big thing. And that started with one person. And he had this big picture thinking of, African Americans being able to, ride the bus with, people, just being people amongst the United States, right? And being treated fairly. I think it's amazing how one person can change, and make a difference, right? And that's what you've got to be able to understand is that you've got to be able to have the belief, right? Now, these people were probably scared to really try to go after these things. But they were beyond that fear. They looked beyond that fear. They looked above and beyond of what they thought maybe was possible, but they believed that they could make it happen. So you've got to first start with belief. You got to have a belief within yourself, a belief, and no matter what, you're not going to deter from that belief. You've got to be able to have a confidence within yourself that, man, this might sound crazy, but I can do it, right? You're going to run into obstacles, but hey, I can do it. I'm going to surpass these obstacles, right? The next thing you've got to be able to do is allow your thoughts to be free. So as you're starting to look at the big picture of these things you do, allow yourself to think these things. Allow yourself to feel these things. I don't know if, like I said, I like to sit in, silence and close my eyes, and I think about things. I think about things I want to accomplish, and I create the picture in my mind. And I know a lot of people think that that's kind of crazy or don't believe in that, but when I look at that, I look at things in my life and what I want to accomplish and how am I going to accomplish those. But I don't limit myself and say, hey, I have this thought and I have this goal. I don't say, hey, stop thinking about that goal because it's impossible, right? I allow my thoughts to really just kind of go where I think, and I don't even think about it. They just go, and I see this picture, and I'm like, okay, great. Here are these things that I want to accomplish. Here are these goals. Here are the things that I need to do. And I allow myself to be in the moment. I allow myself to see these things within my mind. Your mind is an amazing thing. It'll allow you to see all these great things. It'll allow you to see paths that you've never seen before. But that's what happens when you allow yourself and your thoughts to be free, without any worry, without any fear. The fear is going to pop up when you have this in your mind. But just be in the moment, right? See the fear, but don't acknowledge it, right? You see the fear, and then, you get around it, right? That's an important thing. Next, you've got to be able to set aside time to think, right? So that's important. If you want a big picture think, you got to be able to set aside time to think, right? Some of us are so busy in our lives with work, your family, your friends, all these things. You want to get all these things done, or you want to watch your favorite TV shows, but you've got to be able to find time within your day to be able to think about the great things that you do want to accomplish. And as you start to do that, you got to start putting that into action. You've got to be able to take action and do things that you want to do. And you've got to be able to take action towards the goals that you're doing. So you've got to be able to realize what that goal is. Think about that goal. Take that time to think about that goal, and then start taking the action towards that, right? So when I sat down at the end of my junior year, the goal was to get on the field. My goal was to start. My goal was to be the best player that I could be. And what I had to do was I took action, right? I had to start running the mountain. I ran it because I knew that was going to help me get better. Jerry Rice, one of the best, or the best wide receiver that's ever played in the NFL, he used to run a hill every day. And I got some inspiration from him. That work ethic within him, I was able to really do that myself. And, when I started to run this mountain, it wasn't huge, but, it had this nice little hill, and I'd get up it and I'd jog up that and I'd get tired, and, I'd start walking the mountain, and then I'd start running when I could. And as I started to do this every day, I would get better and get better. And at one point I was able to run up the mountain, right? Because I wanted to work towards that and take the action towards that. And same thing with catching the snaps from the long snappers. I was able to get better hands. And one of the great things about that was during the summer program, I was catching balls in the, we had a passing league camp. So there was no, we weren't tackling or anything like that. It's kind of like flag football. And I was catching balls, and, coaches took notice that, hey, man, he's worked on his hands, right? So it was great things. Those were the actions that I took. And next, you got to start solving problems. So, one of the biggest things that I look at when I set goals, I kind of reverse engineer my dream and my goal. I start from, me accomplishing it and working backwards of all the things that I need to do to get to where I need to be. And I think that's an important piece of that. And that's what that thinking process and that thinking time allows you to do, is to set your goal and what are the things that I need to accomplish, and start working backwards. Here are the things I need to accomplish, and then go, once you get to that solution, you take the action and you start moving forward, right? Next, you got to be able to be bold. You got to be able to believe in what you're doing. Be bold in your decisions. Be, willing to make decisions that others aren't willing to do. That's what happens when great things are created, right? You look at the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers were wanting to fly, and they wanted to create an airplane. And guess what? Tons of people told them they were crazy. It was never going to happen. And guess what? All of us have flown in an airplane at some point. But if they had never thought about that, or were never bold or confident within their decisions, we wouldn't be flying airplanes, right? We wouldn't be, same thing with the car, right? Henry Ford created the car. We wouldn't have these things if these people didn't think it and take the steps to do it. And who's to say that you're not going to create the next best thing, right? Because you have the thought within yourself to be able to do that. But the only way to do it is to be bold, take steps to be the best at what you want to accomplish. And you can help millions of people one day, billions of people. There's over 7 billion people in the world. And you as one person can make the difference. Next, you got to be able to surround yourself with ambitious people, right? You've got to be able to find people that are like-minded, that want to accomplish great things. And you'll start to accomplish those things by working with these people. Find people that are going to be able to help you, right? One thing that I've learned over life is that you can't do a lot of things by yourself. And the times that I have struggled, it was me being, egotistical and saying, hey, I got this by myself. I can do it all by myself, right? And when I was able to let my guard down and, allow people to see my dreams and allow people to, and allow myself to talk to people about those things without me fearing that people were going to think I was crazy or people to fear that I was, not going to accomplish these things. I found great people that were going to push me. And we were able to push each other. And guess what? We ended up helping each other to be the best we could be. And we accomplished a lot of great things together. And, a lot of the times you will find people that want to be able to help you, right? I want to naturally help people because I know at the end of the day, if I help people, things are going to happen for me too, right? You never know who you're going to run into, who can be an influence in your life or who you can influence in your life and, make a difference within yourself and within other people. Always surround yourself with ambitious people because they're going to push you to greater heights and greater limits. Be determined to be the best. Be determined to accomplish your goals. Have this big belief within yourself and within your goals and within your dreams, and things will continue to happen for you. So let me leave you with this quote: believe big. The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. Think little goals, expect little achievements. Think big goals and win big success. And that was Dr. David Schwartz. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate, like my page on Facebook, Breathe Motivation. Check out my website, breathemotivation.com, and you can reach out to me personally on any of those social media platforms or Anthony Hester at breathemotivation.com. I love hearing from you guys. I enjoy you guys. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this show today, and I appreciate you guys all listening. I would love for you guys to be able to share this with your friends, family, co-workers, whoever you think would benefit from this, whoever needs a little bit of motivation in their life. I think we all do, but I would greatly appreciate if you shared this amongst them. That would be the greatest honor. So I appreciate you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.